Okay. I hope this works.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm Star-Lord. I formed the Guardians. Met a girl, fell in love. That girl died, but then she came back. Came back a total dick.
Oh, please. He left out some important information, but that is the gist of it.
Did you guys hear any of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. I didn't know if it was working or not.
I had to turn down the volume the entire time. So.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. I had to stop it. I'll edit it or I won't. Who cares?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Cheapseat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good.
I am Groot.
Nice. Ooh,
That's the greater good in Groot language.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were cursing at me or not.
Well, that too. It's got double meanings.
Yeah. It's welcome to the frickin' Guardian to the Galaxy, only he didn't say frickin'. Oh man, I am hello, I just said the podcast that does the things. So I know last week we said we were going to be doing Leon the Professional. However, the guest of honor tonight, Will, is suffering a major migraine. Well, he's been for like the last 3 days, he's been fighting a migraine. So he has not had a chance to watch the movie yet. So we are pivoting to a movie that the three of us had seen already. And frankly, we just kind of wanted to talk about, and this is the perfect opportunity to do that. So I will introduce the guys, or I guess I'll introduce the movie. This is a perfect time for that. This is episode 441. And tonight we are going to spoil Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So this is your one and last warning. We will talk about spoilers. So if you haven't watched it and spoilers matter to you, I guess pick us back up after you've seen it. If you don't care one way or the other, then welcome aboard. I am Sean Allred, your captain. And joining me tonight is Andrew, is now called Chair because he is sitting in a chair. Jimison.
Thanks, Drax. What's up?
Did you call me Drax?
Yeah.
I was gonna speak up and say, who made you captain?
I don't know. I guess I did. And Sam is a bad dog. Vector.
I'm not a bad dog.
You are
not a bad dog at all. Oh. And Sean.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
I mean, this movie is filled with so many
ways to kill you. I mean, just so many different ways. But it still has to be, letting you out of the airlock or, letting you float in space and not bringing you back in.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I will say,
watching you puff up. That's the first time in the Marvel universe where you really got like facial deformities in space, right?
Pretty gross.
Yeah, that was weird.
I would say getting stuck in a flesh hole is another good way to die.
Yeah. Being killed by Nathan Fillion is a dream of mine. This movie plays the Marvel, especially Guardians, kind of plays it fast and loose with space. Space seems like a place that's just, it's fine if you're kind of out in it for a little bit.
It's fine.
It's fine. And I know like he's like half God, so maybe that's
not anymore though. Didn't they take that away in the second one?
Well, he's dead. His dad is dead, so he doesn't have the powers, but he still has the DNA. So that's what makes me think that that's why he's a little bit stronger, a little bit smarter than
maybe
the average
that's why
human.
He started puffing up in this one.
Yeah,
because he wasn't a space god.
Yeah, well, maybe I don't know because in
the powers.
Yeah, because in Guardians 1, he's out in space for a few minutes and just getting all cold and crystally before they.
Yeah, but not explodey.
No, he got puffy. And guys, I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was gonna die in that scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I did too.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna pull a Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but in this, and I know we're kind of spoiling and we're jumping in here, but Groot tells some jokes in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
He wanted to branch out and tell some tremendous jokes.
Yes.
You're welcome for that.
I appreciate it.
I mean, he does bark some orders every now and then.
He does.
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking of puffing up, though.
Yeah. This was
that
Buff
scene-
Groot.
Buff Groot. Yeah.
Well, Buff Groot, but he also like becomes this giant monster when they see the
Oh.
Animorphs.
Go-
And,
yeah.
and
Go
it's
kaiju.
like, yeah. And it's almost like he needs some moisturizer.
I love the fact that so this is kind of now my favorite Groot is because they figured things out with him, and like they don't have to even say a whole lot to him, right? So like when the people show up and he says go full kaiju, he just knows what that means and just goes into full terrorize the local populace mode, right? And then when they have to sneak on the ship and they, he's going to scan you for guns, he just hands him his guns and says, you know what to do with these. And then you get that really great scene where they're back to back and Groot's got 8 arms and each one has a gun and Star-Lord has his 2 guns.
But he hides them everywhere inside of him.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it was great. So obviously we're going to talk about we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, and this was this was just such a fun ride, and I think we are all I think it's safe for me to say that we all loved this movie.
Absolutely.
And
it might be my favorite of the 3 at this point. It's just so good.
Having only seen it once, it's tied with the first one for me right now. And I love 2. I don't love it as much as some other people do. I like 1 better than 2 personally, but right now this is I need to see it again. Once it comes on streaming, I'll watch it again. But man, yeah. So we'll still do our 5-word reviews, and we'll still kind of do a normal show, though I don't have clips other than that intro that I played from a trailer. But yeah, we'll do a 5-word review. So go ahead, Sam. What you got?
All right. I have 2 here. Let's see. Hold on, I got to pull them up real quick. The first one is well played, Mr. Gunn.
Yeah,
well played, Mr. Gunn. For his kind of swan song of leaving the MCU to go do all the DC stuff. I think this was such an amazing send off for this team.
and not just leaving the MCU, he was fired.
Oh yeah, he was fired and then brought back to do this. So, I love his storytelling style. We think of Thor, Love and Thunder. There's a lot of people that complained because it was too goofy and too Takiti Watufu or whatever his last name is.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah. And I think Gunn has the ability to really run that gambit and be able to be both funny, but so darn soulful. You care about every single member of this group now, and especially the Rocket backstory just had me hooked on this. It was just gorgeous. And that kind of leads into my second one, and I'll leave some words for somebody else, but technicolored emotional journey.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I couldn't think of a better send-off for this crew. I thought somebody was dying in this movie, right? The marketing was made to think that somebody was going to die in this movie, if not a bunch of them. We knew Drax. We knew what's his name wanted to retire from the MCU and hated his character, or hated being in it, so he wanted out. So we have all these people who have a reason to get killed off in the MCU, and nobody does. Yet it still felt like there were stakes in this movie. When they blew up the entire planet of animals, I was kind of gobsnapped, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're actually doing this. They're killing an entire planet of beings. We didn't get to know them very well or anything, but they were pretty much like us, only animals, right? So we have just, I love the villain. I thought he had an interesting story to tell. And I love that it tied the first two movies so seamlessly into this final installment. So I can't say enough about how much I really enjoyed this film. Not to mention, you cannot help but smile and almost bounce along with the song at the end. I can't even remember the name of the song, but when they're just kind of picking up and going on with life at the very end. I want to say it's almost like a hippie song. I can't remember what it was, but it was just perfect. It was perfect.
I thought he picked a '90s tune, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was some sort of '90s. I can't remember her name that sings it. But yeah, it's good.
Alanis Morissette.
No, it wasn't Alanis Morissette. It was.
I'm looking for
the
this.
Arms of the Angels, and then they slowly showed pictures of dogs in cages.
Yeah, Dog Days Are Over by Florence Welch.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've had on rotation in my.
I have too. I like that song.
Cassettes. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I can't really, certainly not going to argue with anything you said. You're 100%. I mean, this movie pulls at the heartstrings, man. It does in a way that not since Endgame.
Yeah.
Have we had some emotion, in an MCU movie?
Yeah.
And
this type of emotion, like I said, it felt like any time one of these characters could kick it, could not make it.
Yeah. I didn't know. I misunderstood when you said that Dave Bautista hated the character. I just thought he was ready to move on. I didn't.
Yeah,
think
yeah. I mean, I not really hated the character. He hated some of the choices. He didn't want to be shirtless all the time. That was his thing. And I don't blame him. I mean, you think of what do you have to do to get that buff, and all the time would be kind of relentless.
And you also have to spend so much time in makeup to do that character.
Yeah. Sarah and I watched one of those like fast motion of him getting into makeup. It's like it's like an hour and a half process every day.
Oh,
to get into that character. Yeah. So, but yeah, his character is really great. I mean, all of the characters are so different and interesting and fun, and they coming off of the events of Endgame. Because they're barely in Thor: Love and Thunder. They're there for just a minute or two, but coming off of the like this movie deals with grief, right? So we've now had several movies that have dealt with grief, right? In Endgame, Thor gets fat and drunk, and then ultimately has an opportunity to get some revenge as a way to kind of deal with his grief. And then in Love and Thunder, he's able to kind of have his redemption also from that. And then this movie, Peter Quill is dealing with grief over Gamora. And what does he do? He gets super drunk and then learns to kind of move on and pick up and deal with it. But yeah, I mean, this movie deals with some stuff, and even Kraglin is kind of having to deal with a little bit of grief. Right, like he's still trying to figure out the arrow thing because he misses the boss. He misses the Blue Man Group. I forgot it with the Mohawk. I forgot his name. So
Florence Welch.
Yeah, yeah, that's who it is. So this movie deals with some stuff, and then of course you've got the Rocket backstory, which is just heart wrenching.
Oh man.
It's just heart wrenching, and the guest who we're supposed to have on here, when I told him that I was going to go see Guardians 3, he goes, "You're going to cry several times." He says, "If you don't cry, that means you hate animals and you're soulless." I was like, "Okay," and
yeah, that's about right.
And so again, we're talking spoilers, and Andrew, I'm gonna let you do your 5-word, but we're talking about in Rocket's backstory, right? We know that Rocket was genetically engineered raccoon. And which is great because in this movie he learns that he was in fact a raccoon, because he keeps yelling. He's like, "I'm not a raccoon." Like, well, no, you are. He actually is that. But he makes when he was growing up, he had these 3 other friends that were also you know,
Animals.
animals that
Animals.
were worked
Just
on.
like him. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, an otter, a walrus, right? It was a walrus or
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and a rabbit. And the
That
rabbit, my
poor
God,
rabbit. Oh my gosh.
had like a thing over its mouth and 8 legs. Like it looked
Yeah.
like a spider rabbit.
It
And then
it reminded me of just something out of a horror film.
yeah,
It
Yeah.
was not pleasant to look at, but
It was like if Sid from Toy Story grew up and decided to
become a
mess around with
geneticist.
animals.
Yeah.
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 That's how I saw it. You know,
That's-
it's
yeah.
That's
a poor thing. I mean, everything else on the rabbit is completely limp. You know, the little legs dangle. You know, there is nothing but creepy
And it had-
mechanics on it.
But it had the cutest voice and it was so innocent and sweet. And like all of the animals were innocent and sweet. I mean, the otter was just, you know, they were all best friends. And then when that gunshot fired off, oh my gosh. And then when Rocket screams, like it's a raccoon, it's a CGI raccoon screaming in pain, and you feel it.
Feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It's
it's great. It's so good. It's the same thing. It's just so funny how James Gunn has taken these characters and given us emotion. I mean, when in the Guardians 1, when Groot says, "We are Groot,"
yeah.
right? Like you tear up because it's like, oh, all Vin Diesel said was "We are Groot," but it was the moment was so touching and so
Yeah.
powerful. You're like, why am I crying? Because a talking CGI tree said something. And then I didn't really have a moment like that in the second one, but in this one, oh my gosh, there's just so many of those moments. Even when Peter Quill is screaming, when Star-Lord is screaming because he thinks Rocket is dying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Rocket's his best friend, even though they're kind of assholes to each other. But like,
Well, we're all assholes to each other.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's just how it works. That's how friendship works.
yeah.
Isn't it?
Well,
I mean,
Rocket's
that's what I've grown up knowing.
yeah, but Rocket's a bigger asshole, I think, than most. Andrew, what's your 5-word review?
Well, I have 2, and one is not 5 words, but the first one, which is 5 words, is epic, hilarious, heartfelt, cosmic conclusion.
Nice.
And I mean, it is all those things. Like it's epic. You know, like you said, we haven't seen something like this on this scale since I think Endgame. It is hilarious because James Gunn does comedy so well, and these characters do comedy so well. Drax to me still is one of the funniest characters, even though he's not meaning to be funny at all. When he says his face came off, like I just I just lost it because my kids looked at me in the theater and just kind of turned because they didn't want to see it. Well, my youngest went to put his hands up, but my oldest one just kind of looked at me like, that guy's face just came off. But the way that Drax just says his face came off, like it's
to the
nonchalant.
point. Yeah, it's just that's what it is.
But it's also heartfelt because when Nebula says to him, Drax, you were never Drax the Destroyer. You were meant to be Drax the Dad. I was like a puddle.
Right.
Like, you know. And my second 5-word or my second review, which is not 5 words, I didn't know I could care that much about CGI animals. I wanted to become a CGI vet and
help them, right?
and
just help them. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't notice it until I went back and watched some video clips from the YouTubes, and I saw the walrus even had mechanical eyelids because he couldn't shut his own eyelids. Like they were mechanized. And I thought, oh my God, this guy has just done everything he can to experiment on these animals in torturous ways. So, and then, you know, it's this cosmic conclusion to the awesome story. So,
Plus Cosmo the dog.
and
Yeah,
we see
Cosmo got
dog.
his stay in the
Yeah.
sun too.
Her.
Which I-
And we get to see Howard the Duck a little bit more in this one.
Which was voiced by Seth Green.
Right.
It's like, how can I get into the MCU? Oh, okay, you can be Howard the damn Duck. Cosmo the dog, though. So I know nothing about Cosmo the dog as a character. I know nothing
Really?
about it. I know that it's a thing. I know nothing about it. So when she starts doing telekinesis, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then when the baddies are invading Nowhere, which by the way, they turned Nowhere into a rocket ship. How freaking cool is that? Because that thing burst through the jump portal. It's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But yeah, when she uses the two pieces of wall and squishes that guy,
Oh gosh.
and you cheered. Like people in my theater cheered. You're like, yeah. And he's like, now that's a good dog. And she jumps and she's licking him, and then she has to basically hold the two ships together. She's using her her
Yeah.
powers. I mean, that takes like she's just like one of them went down like Mantis or somebody was like, you're a good dog and you can do this, and like gave her that extra, it was so cool. I mean, you 100% tell that dog was CGI the entire time, but
I don't care. Yeah.
I
love
didn't
it.
care. It
I
was
love it.
such a
I want
great
it.
thing. And I love the fact that the rest, like when they're playing poker and she's still talking about, he called me a bad dog. Can you believe it? Like, dude, just say she's not take it back. Like
Nope.
hardened criminals, these people that have killed other people, and they care about what the dog says. It just killed me. I loved it. Oh my gosh. So my five word, I did two. I don't usually do two, but I did two. First one was the perfect trilogy does exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Beyond Lord of the Rings.
Beyond Lord of the Rings and Star Wars 4, 5, and 6.
And I would say Back to Future 2. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, it's still a good movie. I think it's still a pretty good. It's a great trilogy. But there's not many.
Yeah.
No. But to my point, there's not many, right? Like there really isn't many great trilogies, right? Because usually you get like Spider-Man 1, good, Spider-Man 2, great, Spider-Man 3, bad.
Here's to hoping that the Miles Morales story will end as well as the first two. Because if it does, it's going to be up there.
Oh, yeah. So there's going to be a third one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's good. That's cool. Yeah. I do like the idea. I do like the fact that Oscar Isaac is the villain in that movie.
Yeah.
And the fact that he has also played in X-Men and Star Wars, and now he's in. It's like he's played 3 different characters in Marvel, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
So like he's hitting the trifecta of nerddom. We just got to find a way to get him in Star Trek and somehow DC, and he'll hit them all. Anyway, so yeah, perfect trilogy does exist. And again, I know that there's some other great ones, but for every one of these, there are a lot more of The Matrix or Godfather 1, 2, and 3, where you have like 2 great films and then there's that
and it doesn't
one.
land or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Hunger Games. I think the first 2 were amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't even, like, there's not even like I would love to say Star Trek, but no, even the 3 new ones. I think there's a the one is good, 2 is okay, and 3 is really good. I know Sam, you and I argue back and forth on that, but that's fine. My second 5-word review is found family finds new family.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there another word for new that starts with F?
I was trying to think of another. I was trying to do complete alliteration, but I couldn't. Couldn't go for it. But this is a found family movie, right? The first one is all about the found family, the team coming together, and then the second one they add Mantis to the group, and then this one, the movie starts with them having kind of already added Kraglin and Cosmo to the team.
Yep.
But then they lose Gamora, and then they kind of bring her back. Now she's not on the Guardians.
No.
But they add Nebula. So Nebula is now part of the Guardians too. Guardians also.
Let me interrupt too. One of the things I really appreciated with James Gunn is that he stuck to his guns on Gamora coming back and not being the same Gamora.
Yeah.
I was worried he was going to this was going to be a story about how the new Gamora falls back in love with Star-Lord, and I think in order for everybody to move on like they did at the end of this movie, they had to find their own path.
Yeah.
Star-Lord had to get over his relationship, and Gamora had to realize where she belonged. And I think it ended up perfectly for those two. For the new Gamora.
Yeah. I was a little curious to see how it would work out if they had went the whole Nebula route instead of, because for a hot second he was like, you do have, I've never noticed how black your eyes are.
Yeah. My father gave them to me when they ripped them out of, as a form of torture. Well, he picked a really nice set. Yeah, it was a good punchline. It was a good punchline. Yeah, Gamora or Nebula in this movie is kind of awesome. I just I love everything about her
and her upgrades that she's gotten.
Yeah,
with the nanotech, I guess is what they ended up putting on her.
I guess, yeah,
that's good stuff.
When I saw that, I thought, did she get that from Wakanda, or like where did she get that from? Because her and Stark kind of become buddies.
Yeah,
at the beginning of Endgame, so it would stand to reason that if she's on the team in Endgame,
yeah,
so it would kind of make sense that he would maybe help her out a little bit. So maybe he had, before he died, he had set aside some tech for her to upgrade, but didn't get a chance to give it to her or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Or there's that tech out there. So now that he's made it, maybe it is a Wakandan tech that Stark shared with Wakanda.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Wakanda, had you guys watched Black Panther 2 yet?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember if you guys had seen that or not. Okay. So we're basically, are we all caught up on the MCU at this point? All of us?
I think so.
Yeah.
The only movie I haven't seen is the Eternals.
Oh, well, that's not, you're still not behind.
Yeah.
No.
And I will say that the new Spider-Man, is it, I can't remember, Into the Spider-Verse, or is it?
It's Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse does now put that canon into the MCU, that it is part of the MCU.
Interesting. I'll be interested to see how they do that.
Yep.
Andrew, by the way, you're frozen on my camera.
But he looks so downtrodden on that camera. There he goes. He moved.
Sorry, my computer is not plugged in, so the screen turned off, and I guess the camera went off. Sorry.
That's fine. As long as the mic still works, that's really all that matters. Okay, so I there's a couple bits of trivia that I wanted to read, but oddly enough, this movie doesn't have a lot of trivia on IMDb. There might be some elsewhere.
Yeah.
But there's just not a lot here. This film sets the record for most makeup appliances used in a single film, having more than 23,000 prosthetics used.
Are you serious?
Across more than 1,000 actors.
I mean, if you think about it, almost every actor or
has
actress
something.
in this movie has something, except for really Star-Lord.
Yeah, but also like almost everything is real. Rocket is CGI and Groot is CGI, though they're body doubles or green screened or green suited people. But like there's not a whole lot. There's not just random CGI things in the background. It's people in suits. I mean, even as ridiculous as they looked, Nathan Fillion in that Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suit, like was it was real. So I loved his character too. I love that he's both silly and very serious as a security guard. He's like, they're making fun. He's like, yeah, that guy, he's an idiot. He's just standing right there. He's like, he's just dumb. He just gives him a look.
When you take into account how many of those Animorph people that there was a whole civilization, there was a whole planet, and I'm sure some of those people were CGI if they were in the distance, but
that's true.
The ones that were close up on camera.
The pig thing, I think, was all Battle Pig. I think was all CGI, but yeah. Which also, so we haven't talked about the character Adam, the Adam character, the
Warlock.
Adam
Warlock,
Warlock, yeah.
Yeah, which I thought
Magnificent
was
fellas.
interesting. Again, another way to take a villain and turn him around, because he has an arc, right?
I didn't love it though.
No,
Because I mean, and I don't really know that much about his character, but I know that's not his character in the comic. You know, like he's not. He's in the comics. He's not prepubescent in his mental capacity, and he's. I don't know. He's stronger. He's more powerful, and
I don't know. Comic wise, we need corny here for to clarify on that sort of stuff. But I do believe, he basically Gunn, description of Warlock had to be, he was born early, right? Or born too early that they got him out of the cocoon too early. So he just saw that and he's like, oh, well, then he's a child. He hasn't experienced the world. Well, let's put his mind into the mind of a child with super, powers.
And I guess that made his character work. But when they teased Adam Warlock, and was it the first?
It was
Guardians?
the second one. No, it's the second one because the high priestess was there and she was mad over the whole thing, and so
yeah. When they teased it, I think I wasn't the only one, but I think that a lot of people were excited to see what would come of it, and then it was not much, which I guess he wasn't supposed to be the big bad. But,
he wasn't. He was almost like a foil.
Right.
I mean, you're right, Sam. He does kind of have a redemption arc, but it's more of my boss got killed by this guy, so it's like an enemy of my enemy became my friend, and then in the end they showed mercy on him, and therefore he used his powers to save Star-Lord, and then I guess joins the team, which only made me think, because the team that's constructed at the end of the movie made me think that could be a whole other movie.
Or a series.
Or something.
Never know. I mean, I would watch it.
Well, yeah,
of course
we'd watch it. But you could do a 10-episode arc of them doing things that don't affect anything in the MCU at all.
Yeah.
Just doing their stuff and just watching, because none of those actors except Karen Gilliam are big name movie star actors, right?
But you know why it'll never happen?
Why?
Think of the expense. All that CGI, all that computer work. It just, I think it'd be cost prohibitive for Disney.
If it happens, it would be kind of like What If. I think it'll be an animated.
Oh,
yeah,
it would
be
animated
animation.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if they make a 10-episode arc. We're gonna watch it. But
I'd watch it.
Well, yeah,
absolutely.
But I see your point. I mean, they there's a reason. Like She-Hulk had some CGI issues in it, and that's not a very heavily CGI show.
Yeah.
But anyway, not the point. One of the other pieces of trivia I was going to read, and I navigated away from the trivia page because I was listening to you guys talk and I got bored.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
In the film, Drax refuses to share his Zarg nuts with Mantis. This is because in Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, she ate all of his without permission. So,
have you seen the special, by the way?
I haven't.
Oh, well, then you're not caught up.
You're not caught up.
Oh, there's things that happen in
there's. I mean, we learn things in that.
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. I need to check it out.
You need to watch it. The funny thing that I still think about when I saw him eating those was, I forget if it was the first one or the second one, where he was, I'm invisible. I'm moving so slowly. And he's eating the Zarg nuts.
It's Infinity War.
That's Infinity War, okay.
Because they're getting ready to go to confront Thanos for the first time, and
that's right.
Star-Lord and Gamora are talking, and all of a sudden you hear crunch. You go, how long have you been standing there? The entire time. No way. I'm invisible. Hi, Drax. And I know we're gonna wrong movie, but the fact that in Infinity War, the Russo brothers were smart enough to say, okay, James Gunn, you're going to write the Guardians part.
Yeah.
And Taika, you're going to write the Thor parts.
Mhm.
And then we'll smash it together. Because if we write it all, it won't have the same feel as
Doesn't
bringing...
have that styled. Yeah. Doesn't have
Yeah.
the. Yep.
So those
and
those-
it can
those-
affect the story differently.
Yeah. So it made it really
Later
Yeah,
on,
exactly. Because if it was straight, kind of straight laced like the Russo brothers do things, I don't think it would have that scene wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
We wouldn't
Yeah.
have had this kind of brevity moment right before they go fight Thanos. Because Endgame is great, but it's not very funny.
No.
And
Yeah,
Captain
it's heavy.
America's Civil War, Winter Soldier and Civil War are both great, but it's not very funny, right? Like the only jokes in that movie are like on your left, which they turned later on to have a huge emotional payoff in Endgame. But there's nothing funny in those movies that they did like this movie. I mean, even the, mildly comical stuff in this movie is funnier than those. Anyway, not the point. The point is that this movie was great, and I think three of us would highly recommend you go watch it in the theater. Or if you have to wait until streaming, that's fine. But man,
It's worth it.
Yeah, definitely worth it. Anything else you guys want to hit? I'm trying to think of any of the characters we haven't really mentioned. We've kind of hit on all of it. I mean, the bad guy is great, right? Like most Marvel or most comic book movies, the movie depends on the bad guy to be successful.
Mhm.
And this was a pretty crazy, awesome villain who.
Yep.
Here's the thing. So I'm sidetracking my own thought, but when I was watching the trailer to capture that intro clip, I realized something. Since the end of Endgame, I haven't been like watching all trailers as like I used to, in preparation for these movies. I've just been like, okay, there's a new movie coming out. I'll watch it when it comes out. So when I watched the trailer for Guardians 3, watching the trailer this time, having seen it, I got a little choked up watching it because
It meant something else.
Rocket says it's not that he wanted to make things perfect. He just hated the way things are.
Mhm.
And of course, like that brings up all the emotions of what he did with the animals. Like I'm sitting here in my office chair, getting ready to pull the audio clip for this episode, and I'm like fighting back the that feeling you get in your throat, when you're trying not to cry. And it's like it's just from the trailer, but because the movie was so powerful, that just like watching the trailer now gives me such a different experience. And then you watch the trailer and realize, oh, the tease is different, right? Because there's one point like they have slow motion Drax carrying Peter Quill.
No,
And
that
you
would
think-
be Gamora, not Gamora. Nebula.
Yeah. She's carrying Peter.
I saw a behind the scenes
Mhm.
thing of that where that
It's like a 35-pound.
it's only 35 pounds and it looks
Dummy,
exactly
yeah.
like him. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And it was like creeping her out. It's
Right.
it's so weird.
But like the trailer makes you think that like he's dead, and in fact he's
Yeah.
just drunk.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and then
Well, like you
Drax,
said, it kind of we get that impression that somebody's going to die in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Before we,
and the last thing I guess I'll spoil is this, but it does say at the end of the movie Star-Lord will return. So
Yeah.
he's not done making these movies. So I guess he's gonna probably somehow be in one of the next Avengers movies. Somehow.
Yeah.
Because now he's on Earth. And we're getting ready to have the next Marvel thing is the Nick Fury,
Secret Wars,
the Secret
or Secret
Wars.
Invasion.
Yeah.
Secret Invasion, thank you. And then I saw something today about because of the writer's strike and the SAG, all the stuff that's going on, a lot of the Marvel stuff's getting pushed back a little
Yeah.
bit. But I didn't realize that they have already greenlit Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts and Thunderbolts, yeah. Apparently, Deadpool 3 is taking the place of one of the other tent poles that was posted that May slot that first weekend in May that they usually have. I can't remember what it is. Doesn't matter. Anyway, that's it. That's kind of the show. There's not much else we can really say really, honestly. But we will do this.
Wait, what's supposed to happen?
We will do. Wow, sorry. We will do our top 10 or out of 10. Excuse me, out of 10. How would we rank this movie out of 10? Did we do the other Guardian movies on here?
Pretty sure we did at least one of them, if not both.
I don't think we have.
Really?
As when I type in Guardians into my chat or my search bar here, am I spelling Guardians right? No, we haven't. We haven't done any of those.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right. I was gonna try to compare it with the other ones, but I can't. So, Sam or Andrew, excuse me, what would you give this score from 0 to 10?
Well, IMDb has an 8.2 and Rotten Tomatoes has an 82%. So
wow.
Yeah, they're right there together. And then IMDb says, Rotten Tomatoes says the audience score is a 94% out of 100. So obviously people like this, and I think I'm right there with them. I think it's a really good film. I don't know what I would have given the first one. I don't think the second one would be an 80 or an 8 point whatever. It would be a little less, but I can put this one safely in the 8 range. So I'm going to say 8.3.
Okay.
Out of 10.
All right, Sam.
Give me an 8.98 out of 10.
All right.
I think it's amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I do too. I think it's great. I'm actually going to go ahead and sneak into that 9.1 range, which is the same score I gave Top Gun Maverick. I don't know. I might like this a little bit better. I might give this a 9.2. I like this. This is such a good movie. I can't wait to get my hands on it again. Yeah, I'm stoked for it. And Sam's comments about Across the Spider-Verse Across the Spider-Verse. I'm pretty excited for that too.
Yeah. Just wait. You'll love it.
Oh man, I wish I would have read this before I gave my 5-word review, because it says the critics' consensus of this film, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it's a galactic group hug.
Nice.
Yeah. That's what this is.
Nope, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Well, that's it. That's our show. That's the whole episode. Thank you so much for listening. I know that we had to, we had to pivot away from Leon, but you okay?
Yeah. Just pivoting.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Again, I know we had to pivot away from but when you did it the first time, it took the second time to get the context. I thought you just had like a gnarly hiccup, but
yeah, I did too.
But I now understand what just happened.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah. So thank you all so much for listening, and I really appreciate. Hopefully, you enjoyed this spoiler episode. If not, well, I don't know what to tell you. But in the meantime, or actually to say next week, we're going to be doing Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Now, we had to skip Temple of Doom because we're running out of time before the next indie movie. But Eric from Cinematic Sound Radio podcast is coming back on to help us out with that one. And apparently y'all really loved Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark episode. That's one of our highest downloaded episodes we've had in years. So maybe we can get Last Crusade up there too. That'd be pretty fantastic. How do you do that? Well, it's easy. You go to iTunes or Google Play, YouTube. Where else are we? Spotify. Go there, listen to it, hit the subscribe button, and also leave us a review. That would be really, really great. You can, of course, go to our website, cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com, and find the links to all those social media places where we are: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And you can, if you want to pretend like it's 2010, you can send us an email to cheapseatreviews@gmail.com. Because I think that was the last time we got an email. It was so far ago that we didn't even start the show yet. Anyway, that's it. Thank you all so much for listening. So on behalf of Andrew and Sam, this is Sean saying thank you all so much for listening. And we'll see you next week for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Kalima.
Oh.